3 and
Oh, well, that's a great way to head in. Ozzy was counting us in, but we're already recording. So welcome to episode 110 or 110 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host, Stephen Mullen, and I'm joined by Austin Dowalonga. Zach's not here today because we're recording on May 4th, and it's Zach's birthday. So he's taking the night off, a little me time, a little him time. He's turning the big 2-6. So by the time we release this episode and when you're likely listening to this, it'll be past his birthday. But if you didn't wish him a happy birthday, go back and wish him a happy belated birthday. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. So happy birthday, Zach. And we'll hold down the fort here while you responsibly have a safe Tuesday evening, because I'm not sure how crazy you can get on a Tuesday evening. So Ozzy, how are things with you, my friend? We're excited to recap some NFL draft.
Oh yeah, I am. I'm super excited. Happy birthday, Zachary, or Bathory, as our listeners basically know him. That's I've been speaking to thousands of our listeners through just through conversation in our DMs, thousands of them, and they all refer to Zach as Bathory. So
yes,
I'm sure
so if you
Zach.
if you DM him, make sure you refer to him as Bathory, or otherwise he won't respond. So
yeah, so yeah. Yeah, but it's good. It's about to storm, so let's hope the Wi-Fi holds on tight.
Yeah, it was raining here as well, so the little weather update. We don't do those as often, but now we will.
When Zach's
okay.
gone, we got to do it in his honor, really.
Absolutely. Before we jump into NFL draft recap, as we're recording, the CFL draft is going on right now. We had a great chat with Jabari Arthur last week on kind of what to look for and making the jump from college to the pros. So if you haven't already, go back and check out that episode. But and we'll have an extensive kind of recap of the CFL draft next week if things go well and according to plan. But first overall, the Hamilton Tiger Cats selected Jake Burt. So tight end / receiver, which was kind of an interesting pick. I thought they would go a different direction. And then end of the episode, I'll kind of recap who else was selected because the draft, again, is going on as we speak. But shifting gears back to the NFL, Aussie, your Patriots had a pretty busy draft. And, we were going to review the Browns, Seahawks, and Patriots drafts. But I want to start with yours because the big surprise pick was Mac Jones going 15th overall to your New England Patriots. The Nick Saban, Bill Belichick connection remains strong. First impression of the pick, I know in the group chat, it started negative, but you've now been tweeting that Joe Burrow and Mac Jones are the same person. So you've clearly talked yourself into the pick. Talk to our listeners about the transition of and progression of your thoughts on this acquisition.
Yeah, so I'll be honest. If you were there recording my reaction, it would be very similar to Zach's Baker Mayfield reaction, where it literally put him on his ass. I was sitting next to Shay. She was watching the game or the draft with me. I told her to hold me while the Pats were about to make their selection. I was like, please don't be Mac Jones.
Oh, you were actually hoping it wasn't Mac Jones. That's funny. That was Zach's exact reaction for the Baker Mayfield one. And for those who haven't watched that, it's on our Instagram page. But as you were, floor is yours.
Yeah. So I'll explain why. And it is in large part to kind of what I've been hearing just about Jarrett Stidham this offseason in regards to how the Patriots viewed last offseason in terms of his development. And then also Cam Newton's development within the Patriots system. Neither Jarrett Stidham or Cam got last offseason to really develop into that starting quarterback for the Patriots. So in my mind, I was like, we've got a quarterback in our room that will be a starter, a capable starter. Don't go quarterback. And then we go Mac Jones, and I thought about it a little bit. I sat on it, and I did come around on the pick because his accuracy was next level. I believe he was the most accurate passer. He had the highest grade last year in all of college football. And I believe there was a graphic, and I could be wrong on the players, but I know Kyler Murray was on there, and Joe Burrow, I think, was the other quarterback over the last couple of years. They were the highest graded passers, and they both went first overall. I know there's a lot more to that. You can talk about mobility and things like that. I watched some Mac Jones tape. I ran the tape. I cut some tape.
Grinded film?
Yeah, I grinded some film. And I mean, the guy's not he's not like a Kyler Murray mobile, but he can run, he can elude. So I saw him. He's not as clunky as Tom Brady. Okay, like I think that I watched enough Colin Cowherd videos leading up to the draft that I thought he was just like some Statue of Liberty back there, like where he just couldn't move. But the guy, like he actually ran for some first downs, and he had really good pocket awareness. So the more I thought about it, the more I sat on it, I was like, he's just like a slightly less mobile Joe Burrow. And that's when I sent out that tweet, because I was like, really, like they are both highly accurate. They both had tons of weapons. So you can't just say, oh, Mac Jones had far and away better weapons. Jamar Chase just went 5th overall. Justin Jefferson's a star in the NFL already. Like, I don't think that that's a reason to knock a guy either. But if you wanted to go that route, like they both had studs. They're both 6'3", both 220 in that range, and they're mainly pocket passers. So like Joe Burrow, I'd say, is a little bit more elusive. So that was kind of where I was coming from on the tweet. It was a little hot takey, but it was
okay.
That's where I was coming from.
We live for that shit. I think with Mac Jones, it's important to remember, like when people say like, and you get compared to Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, like those breeds of quarterbacks no longer really exist. Like even if you're not a mobile quarterback, you're not going to be as immobile as a Ben Roethlisberger, right? Like even as a pocket passer, the tall kind of, prototypical, tall pocket passer who just fires bullets from the pocket. You're not, it's that breed of like the Phillip Rivers or the Peyton Manning or the Tom Brady or the Ben Roethlisberger. There's the guys who are coming out that are still pocket passes are always going to be a little bit more mobile than what we've seen in the past 20 years. You even look at Justin Herbert, who I'd still consider him a pocket passer, even though he's able to run, right? Like even Justin Fields this draft, he's a pocket passer who can run. I think Kyler Murray is where you kind of get to the discrepancy where it's like, I'm not sure if he's a pocket passer. He likes to, you got to design some bootlegs for him. So yeah, I think it's a good pick. I think the Patriots were probably the best landing spot for him, if not the 49ers, like Tomac was saying a couple of weeks ago, where he could have really, been put into a great surrounding area for him. I think the best route for him going forward, though, is let him ride the bench for the next year, have Cam Newton in there, learn the offense, learn the Patriot way, and get that body into some kind of NFL condition. That's one thing I'll say. Yes, he's able to run for some first downs, but I think he can do a lot to increase the longevity of his career by getting into NFL shape. I know that's kind of funny coming from me, but I mean, that we just talk about the game. We're not athletes. So
exactly.
Although I am
We're
wearing
not
this
expected to
wearing my Fan Twos jersey CFL draft tonight, but we're not expected to go out there and perform at a NFL level. We just expected to podcast at a high level. So Ozzy, I guess I'll flip it back to you. What do you think is the most successful path forward for Mac Jones? Is it getting the reps he needs like most rookie quarterbacks are nowadays and starting over Cam Newton, or getting that year off? And I guess I'll take it a step farther. Do you predict he will start games this year, even if it's not week 1?
Yeah, so I think that he's capable of starting week 1. And just from what I had seen in the pre-draft process, people were calling him one of the smartest quarterbacks in the draft. So he would be, and he was in the most pro style of offense. So he would be the most pro ready, is kind of the phrase that I saw a lot in the lead up to the draft. So I would say that he's definitely capable of starting week 1. Again, is that my preference? I like the thought of Cam Newton on a full season under his belt.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the opportunity with upgraded weapons to kind of revitalize his career, because he's not going to be the future at quarterback for the Patriots. So I want to see his career go beyond the Patriots, and I don't want him to just be like a career backup the rest of the latter half of his career. So that's kind of where I stand on it. And again, it's kind of more of like the Cam Newton homer in me. But if Mac Jones is starting week 1, am I going to be upset? By no stretch, because he is the most pro ready, or one of the most pro ready prospects. He's got a good amount of weapons now that we've upgraded at receiver and tight end for him to work with. He's the most accurate passer coming out of this draft, and he's just a perfect fit the Patriots last year were 7-9 with inaccurate quarterback play. You get a guy in there who's going to be putting the ball on a dime. That's sign me up for that, because that takes us to a 10-win team easy this year in a 17-game season. So
I like it.
I'm liking it.
I'm excited for you, man. I'm not here for the Joe Burrow comparison fully. I'm the same person might be a stretch, but I'm here for the excitement. I think that's really cool. And drafting a quarterback in the first round is exciting. Tomac, I guess wouldn't have experienced that in a while, but you and Zach definitely know what the feeling now. And let's go through the rest of this Patriots draft. I mean, second round pick, you guys go right back to Alabama, Christian Barmore, someone who Zach was thinking highly of for a Browns prospect in our mock draft episode. And the third round, you go Ronnie Perkins, an edge out of Oklahoma. Ramondre Stevenson, running backs. He got another running back because I don't believe you picked up Sony Michel's fifth-year option. So get some competition in that room. And I'll let you speak towards the rest of the draft instead of me just rattling off all the names. But what of those names have you most excited, not including Mac Jones?
Yeah, so really looking forward to Christian Barmore, as you mentioned. He was the top defensive tackle in this draft, which was a very bad defensive tackle draft. And so we were able to get him. And I saw on some people's boards, he was like the 12th or 14th highest ranked player in the entire draft, and he goes 38 overall. So he fell to us. I'm super pumped about that. Our run defense last year was pretty brutal at times, and that was definitely a spot I wanted us to shore up. One thing I saw a theme of here throughout the first number of picks was 2 Alabama picks, 2 Oklahoma picks, and a Michigan pick. So big schools that the Patriots were dipping into for their first 5 picks. And that has, like, I guess what that tells me is they want guys that are like kind of higher end talent that are able to make an impact sooner. They're kind of an older defense. So to see us get guys like Christian Barmore to potentially get younger on the defensive line, like immediately, Ronnie Perkins on the edge to get some edge help, Cameron McGrone, linebacker out of Michigan. He's a guy that I think could be one of those 5th round picks where it is still a swing, but in a Michigan defense, which is always really good. I like the prospect there because we do need to get younger at linebacker. Dante Hightower is getting older. He's coming back from an opt-out year. And we can get a off the ball linebacker like Cameron McGrone, who can do it all. He can rush off the edge and he can play in coverage. Super pumped about that pick. But yeah, if I had to just put one, I'd say Christian Barmore is definitely the guy that I think can make an impact day one. But yeah, I do really like, I guess, as you could probably tell, like this season is the season of optimism in the NFL. But yeah, I do really like the value that these players provide for the Patriots.
Absolutely. I have a coaching friend who I met at a clinic a few years ago. His name's Sean. And when you guys drafted Barmore, he texted me, "This is Vince Wilfork 2.0." And I was like, whoa, what? And so I don't know, like, if that's hot takey, again, it's the season of optimism, but obviously a really highly touted prospect and someone who Bill can really work with to bring out his highest potential. And man, it's weird. I'm actually like happy for you. Like, as I hate the Patriots, but like, I think since Tom left, that sting isn't there anymore. And now that Cam's there, I want Cam to succeed. I hope Mac Jones learns a lot behind him, and I hope they work together, even though they're very different as quarterbacks. I hope Cam can still share his insight on how to make it and have the longevity in the league. I mean, people don't realize that Cam's been in the league for 10 years now. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks or players in general flame out after 2 or 3 years. And people like to rag on Cam, but he's been in the league for 10 whole years. And that's, you can hate on him, but you can't knock his longevity. So I'm really excited for your Patriots, Ozzy, which is really weird to say.
Oh yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go and transition to, should we talk about your Seahawks next, Steve?
Let's do it. It'll be a quick discussion. There's 3 guys to talk about. So coming into this draft, I was a little bit nervous. Obviously, Jamal Adams is our first round pick because, we traded that for Jamal Adams and then next year's first as well as this year's third. And one thing I will say, well, what the Jets did with our third round pick, I'm not too impressed with. They traded up and to grab a guard, which I understand you're going trying to protect Zach Wilson. I was gonna say Zach Jones. I was like, I'm just getting them all mixed up. But I don't know, trading up capital like that to go get a guard, I'm not too high on. When there's a run on tackles in the second round, they probably could have snagged another one and maybe moved him to guard. That's what the Bengals did with Jackson Carman. But I digress. So I think when you break down that trade, it essentially was Jamal Adams for um, whoever was it, Vera Tucker that the Jets took
Yeah.
with them. And that was it. So, I mean, we'll see how that looks in a couple of years. But as far as that comes from the
To come
Seahawks,
to the Jets defense on that, Vera Tucker was probably one of the best interior offensive linemen, if not the best interior lineman in the draft. So
fair.
that's not just Vera Tucker.
I
It's
know,
a
but
pretty
it's a
big need.
guard. I don't know. It's premium money on a guard like that. I get it's O-line. It's important.
Yeah.
But from the Seahawks perspective, their first pick didn't come until the 56th pick of the second round, and they took Dwayne Eskridge out of Western Michigan, which caught me by surprise. I was picking up furniture with my girlfriend, and so Tomac texted me to pick Dwayne Eskridge, and I was like, who? And so I did a little more reading on him, though, and I'm really excited for this guy. He's 5'9", lightning in a bottle. People complain about his route tree, but I was doing some research and it worked so well. They didn't really need him to run any more routes than what they did. They are RPO centric offense. And so he ran his slants. He caught the balls thrown to him on those slants, and then he took them to the house. And that was his game. So I'm really excited because a lot of, I think, ill-informed analysts looked at it and like, well, the Seahawks don't need a receiver. They have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But if you take a little peek behind the depth chart, behind the top two guys, the third guy there you'll see is Freddie Swain, a 7th round pick from last year's draft. So receiver was a pretty big need. And you have Tyler Lockett, who over the last 2 years has injured his knee, not to the point where he's missed games, but to where he's been probably about 75 to 80% of effective as what he usually is when he's fully healthy, because he's been battling those midseason injuries. So I think Eskridge is going to come in and be an immediate contributor to this offense. Shane Waldron loves to run more horizontal concepts. So to get him running drag routes and more shallow crosses and just getting someone that Russell can target over the middle and can make yards after the catch happen, I think is going to be great for this offense, great for Russ. And it's going to, you want to double up DK and put your other guy on Tyler Lockett, you still have to deal with Eskridge now. And then we have Everett and, maybe Will Dissly can come back fully healthy this year. So there's like a lot of things to like going forward with the Seahawks offense because of this pick. I'm not sure if you had any thoughts when you saw it, Ozzy, if you're pretty indifferent to it.
I'm kind of indifferent on it just because he is, I guess I'm kind of leaning towards negative, I guess, because he is just a 5'9" receiver. We have seen those types of guys work in the NFL, but that's one of those things where how effective can he be at the next level?
Mm-hmm.
At the second round, you still want to hit on your pick, obviously, but as you mentioned, like he's not going to be a guy that you rely on as your number one. So I think that being the third receiver in a pass-heavy offense, it definitely has the potential. But yeah, I'm leaning towards indifference, I guess.
Fair enough. One other element I'm really excited with him for too is jet sweeps and stuff. He has that speed, so just hand him off the ball in motion, let him set the edge, and hopefully take a to a couple house calls there. In the 4th round, we had 137th overall. We had cornerback Trey Brown, someone that no one had really mocked to Seattle, because Seattle has typically had very strict measurables on what they look for in their cornerbacks. And that's usually the 32-inch arms, the essentially Richard Sherman prototype. You look at who they drafted, Trey Flowers back in 2017 or 2018 there. Byron Maxwell, a lot of longer corners, Brandon Browner from the CFL back in the day. Shaquille Griffin, I believe, nearly fit that mold. So they went totally other direction here. I'm not sure what his arm measurables here for Trey Brown, but he's only 5'9". And I think you can almost thank DJ Reed for that, who they signed out of San Francisco last year, late in the offseason. And he came in and contributed really at a high level for Seattle at a time when, they were battling a lot of depth issues and injury issues. So Trey Brown can come in, and he's a speedster. I forget who was saying, but they talked to an offensive coordinator and has a lot of dog in him. Like, even though he's 5'9", like if that ball's in the air, he's making damn sure like he has a 50-50 shot at that thing, just like the receiver. So I'm really excited for this guy. I think with the loss of Shaquille Griffin, we signed Akella Witherspoon, and we got Trey Flowers coming back, and you add Trey Brown to the mix, and DJ Reed's back. So there's gonna be a lot of fun competition in the secondary, and it's cool to see Pete, even at his age and who gets accused of not being able to adapt his mindset or philosophy, go and draft an undersized corner and really deviate from what he believes to be a successful prototypical corner like a Richard Sherman build and go and draft someone like this. So I'm really excited to see how he'll look after Pete gets some time and the Seattle coaching staff gets some time to teach him the footwork technique that Seattle likes, the press and bail, cover three. And so I'm really looking forward to this pick. So I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on this one, Ozzy, or if I can move on to the 6th round pick and Seattle's final selection.
I'll let you go on.
All right. And this one again, Pete kind of adjusting his philosophy. Seattle took a pass protector. They took an offensive tackle whose pass protecting is better than his run blocking. And that's at 208 overall, Stone Forsythe, which coolest name of the draft, by the way. I love that. And he's out of Florida, was protecting Kyle Trask in his time there. And they didn't really run the ball a whole lot, so he didn't get a lot of time to develop his run blocking. But I love this pick because coming into this draft, I was really worried that with the lack of picks we had, we weren't going to be able to address the future of our left tackle position with Dwayne Brown being 36 years old. And, I think it was 2019, he faced some more injury issues. I believe he was able to play a full season last year, but having a guy now that we could say, hey, even if it's not necessarily him as the future left tackle, it's someone that can at least compete for the job next year if Dwayne Brown decides to hang him up. And I love that pass blocking is one of his strengths now, and he can work on the run blocking. I'd much rather that than the guys that we've typically drafted in the years past when Tom Cable was around, in that they're a road grader on in the run game, but they can't pass protect for the life of them. So really excited about this pick. And I feel like anyone who's kind of shitting on Seattle's offensive line now is mostly ill-informed. I mean, you have Dwayne Brown, you have Gabe Jackson, who I believe is going to be going over to right guard. You have Damian Lewis, a 3rd round pick from last year, at moving to left guard. Ethan Posick, who played quite well. He was an average center when he was healthy. So that's all you can really ask for a guy that's kind of been a journeyman O-line throughout Seattle's system, playing almost every position before settling at center. And then Brandon Shell, who was really strong before spraining his ankles. So, and you have Stone Forsythe as some depth, and Cedric Ogboihi as a swing tackle who can compete at right tackle and also kind of play that George Fant role, I think is what they're expecting of him. So I'm really, for only having 3 picks, as you could probably tell, Ozzy and our listeners, I'm really fired up for these guys. And, that's not even including their undrafted free agents. They signed Cade Johnson, someone a lot of people are really high on. And then, if I don't butcher this, and we're going to get to some of the Canadians later, they signed Pierre-Olivier Lestage out of Montreal. So to go compete at the center job. And I guess he's just a nasty guy that plays center and just, rips guys' heads off, just gets after it. So, and Pete Carroll called him personally to get him on the team. So I'm really excited about that and the other undrafted free agent acquisitions as well. So all good here. A+ draft for Seattle. You won't see that on any other site, but you're getting it right here on Third and Wrong, baby.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing, again, I don't know if I'm putting too much stock into this, but I think that in a year where there's so much uncertainty, going after a corner like Trey Brown, who's playing for Oklahoma, again, another big school, going up against really tough competition, I think that speaks a lot for as in terms of a player, just from their talent perspective. They're able to go toe to toe with these guys, and for him to go to Seattle where he's not going to be relied on to be again, it's the same thing with Dwayne Eskridge. He's not relied on to be the number 1 or 2 right away. He can be a perfect slot guy. And then Stone Forsythe is 6'8", 300 pounds. He's a freaking mauler.
Yes.
So you love to see that on one of Russ's sides. That's a tackle if I've ever seen one. So really love to see that. So I'm all aboard the hype for the Seahawks here. I was surprised you didn't make magic happen with the lack of picks. And last year, I think you had 3 or 4. and they traded and ended up getting like 10 picks or something out of
that was the year before. That was when we
year
traded
before.
we traded Frank Clark and then traded back in the first round and turned 5 picks to like 11 selections. So
Yeah.
that was something else.
I was surprised not to see that this time around, but it looks like you made address needs with all 3 picks, which was really, really good. So I think that's all you could ask for
Absolutely.
in terms of these, in terms of a team's draft.
For Zach's brownies, we'll quickly touch on him because it is his birthday, but I can't get too in depth because quite honestly, I'm not too sure the extent that these guys will be able to contribute. The Greg Newsome, the second pick, really left me scratching my head a little bit. I understand he's really talented, but I felt like they had a lot of depth at corner already. But I mean, they also faced a lot of injuries last year, so maybe better to add one more than not have enough. So I guess it increases the competition there. And then, they got Troy Hill and John Johnson, I believe. So that's a safety position, but their secondary as a whole is quite deep now. But I mean, I don't hate the pick, but I thought maybe they're going to go get that Christian Barmore or something. And then Ozzy, your favorite player in the second round, Jeremiah Owusu-Koroma, linebacker out of Notre Dame. We had him mocked going 4th overall to the Falcons. We figured if they didn't trade out, they ended up taking Kyle Pitts, which I thought everyone's mocking this. It's not going to happen. They're going to do something else. And they end up taking Kyle Pitts after all. So maybe sometimes when it's right in front of our face, we just got to accept the facts for what they are. But I think linebacker is a big need for them. And I'm glad they went after this. I think they brought back Malcolm Smith, who's again, a 10-year vet in the NFL. And for being a 7th round pick, that's quite impressive, but they obviously needed some young influx of talent there. So those are probably the only 2 picks I'll speak on. I know Zach was quite hyped about Anthony Schwartz as well, wide receiver out of Auburn.
Yeah, I heard that Schwartz was one of the fastest, if not the fastest, wide receiver in the draft, unless I misheard, but that would be a pretty nice pickup for them. And then send OBJ to the Patriots. So I
missed that. I blanked out, and then I was like,
I was gonna say,
I
was looking at your face the whole time.
I was like,
so delayed.
It happened 2 weeks ago with Tomac too, when he's talking about Mac Jones Rookie of the Year, and for some reason things are taking longer to register nowadays, and I'm just like, wait.
I was like, no, the storm ruined the internet. But anyways, so yeah, no, I think that'll be a good pick, Zach. I don't know much about Anthony Schwartz other than that. But yeah, I wanted to speak on Owusu-Koramoah for a second because to defend myself, because I heard that Daniel Jeremiah, the draft guru himself, had Owusu-Koramoah as his 8th overall prospect. So take that, Tomac. 4th overall isn't a stretch. But apparently one of the comments after the draft is that he suspects that Koramoah fell because teams didn't know how to play him. But I love this fit for the Browns because he's a safety playing linebacker, and they needed linebacker. They needed a guy to pair with, who's Mack Wilson.
Mack Wilson.
That's right. So Mack Wilson's been an incredible pick for them. I think they picked him in the 3rd round a couple years ago. He's been excellent, but yeah, like you said, Steve, they needed to address the depth there, and I really love this pick for them. And then Greg Newsome, I think that we saw a couple teams go corner that it didn't really think they needed to, like the Panthers is another team that comes to mind. Broncos is another. But I think you're right too. They have battled injuries so much. Greedy Williams was an incredible prospect that hasn't translated to the NFL quite yet, mainly due to injuries. So hopefully he can get past the injury bug and revitalize his career. But I really do like this pick because now you're less reliant on Greedy Williams. You're not reliant on Troy Hill to come in and be a top dog. So in a pass heavy league where you're one of the AFC powerhouses, I think that this is really good because you're going to be finding yourself very likely in an AFC divisional game or a championship game against a high flying offense. You need to be able to shut down those passing attacks.
It's kind of funny for the Browns. They're in a division that really likes, like the Ravens like to run the ball, and then you have, the Steelers, they like to pass, but for whatever that's worth for a 40-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. But then you get outside their division and you got Kansas City, you got the Chargers, you have just a bunch of teams who can just really throw the rock around. And so, yeah, they're preparing kind of for both. And then you have Jadeveon Clowney now there to pair with Myles Garrett. So it's on their DC now to put it all together. There's no more excuses for him. He has all the talent now, and it's time to make sure they're correctly utilizing that.
Oh yeah, like to say the Browns are a Super Bowl contender is not even a stretch anymore. And if we would have been saying this 2 years ago, Zach would have just creamed at the thought of that. But he's
I don't like the thought of Zach creaming, so I were just gonna. It's like the kids podcast, yeah, kids show.
we'll check that box off on YouTube.
Yeah,
Not for kids. This
not
one.
for under 18.
But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
Uh,
so it's just crazy that how they've changed their trajectory in such a short time.
All right, Ozzy, let's step out of the bubble of our favorite teams. Take the goggles off. My Seahawks glasses, I'm taking them off. They're on my, I don't even have a desk. I'm using a coffee table. Anyways, let's talk about our favorite picks in the draft, not including our teams here. And I'll start with one of mine. It's probably a fan favorite. Justin Fields to the Bears, man. These guys have been through it quarterback wise. They've been put through the ringer. Mitch Trubisky, number 2 overall in 2017, didn't work. Nick Foles didn't work. Russell Wilson trades likely never even happened. John Schneider said they never even got to really negotiating with anyone. So that was the media making stories up about what they offered. And then, so that didn't happen. And then they signed Andy Dalton for 10 million, tweet out the photo QB1. And all of a sudden the Bears make the leap to number 11 and select Justin Fields. And man, oh man, how cool is this? I mean, Zach's dad, Bill Foth must be just, I hope he's ordering his number 1 Justin Fields jersey right now, because this is really great. And I think, we saw the narrative the whole time with Justin Fields falling and people picking at his game and wasn't sure how far he was going to fall, but it was nice to see a team trade up and go get him. I think that was the right thing to do. And there's rumors that the Vikings might've been thinking about taking him at 14. So they went ahead and got in front of it. So just a really stand-up job by Chicago. Some might call it a desperation move, but I mean, they're a desperate team and they went and got their guy. And at whatever cost you believe that was too much or too little, that's going to depend on his performance. It's too early to really say how, whether they gave up too much or not, but they went and rolled the dice on a franchise player. And that ended up being one of my favorite picks.
Yeah, I totally, I'm not going to say that was my favorite, but I do see your point. And I think that people, if they're like, I remember hearing that people were kind of questioning the price that they paid. And I just would say that to get a franchise quarterback for 2 firsts and a 4th or whatever it ended up costing them to move up. And if Justin Fields hits as a player in the NFL, it's totally worth it. You're not going to be missing that 1st round pick next year. You think about where the Bears were just a month and a half ago when they signed Andy Dalton, and it goes from Russell Wilson to Andy Dalton, and you have to adjust. And that, like, I feel like we forget about how intense that was on Twitter, how upset Bears fans were just a month and a half ago that the social media team for the Bears had the audacity to go QB1 on their Twitter post after potentially getting Russell Wilson. It was just such a fall off. So it basically gives some more life into this franchise, and it makes them super exciting. I think that they go from being probably a team that's unwatchable next year to at least tolerable, because now you've got a guy who has the potential to be a franchise guy, and the Bears have lacked that for so many years.
And hey, with the drama going around in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, which I mean, we could spend a half hour talking about, but at this point, I mean, might as well wait to see what actually happens before we just try speculating, because our speculation's no better than Ian Rappaport or Daniel Jeremiah or Adam Scheffner. So, I mean, hey, this division could be wide open in a matter of weeks or a day, whatever this ends up happening with that ticking time bomb in Green Bay. But let you hit it on the head, man. I think this gives them credibility, and it's suit up and let's rock and roll. That defense is still for the most part intact. Allen Robinson is still there. I think Tariq Cohen is still there. So it's time to lace them up and get going. And another one of my favorite picks, which we'll quickly segue to, Tevin Jenkins. They got him in the 2nd round. I mocked him at 21 overall to the Colts. I think many others had him going in the 1st round. I think he can play either guard or tackle. I believe he was the prospect who the only downfall was shorter arms. But I mean, you got your potentially franchise left tackle to pair with your franchise quarterback, and you got him in the 2nd round, that tackle. And worst case scenario, you put him at guard. So I'm really high on this Bears draft, and those are probably my 2 favorite picks are to the Bears.
Wow. And I think it speaks to how much they believe in Tevin Jenkins as well, because they just released Charles Leno
Hmm.
yesterday or today. So that was really fascinating that they just dropped their left tackle just like that. But they must feel really confident with Jenkins.
Hmm.
My favorite pick came early on. I really liked the Panthers doubling down and getting J.C. Horn at number 8. Um, I say doubling down because they seemed pretty good in the secondary, but they addressed it a lot in the draft last year, and they have Dante Jackson, who is really good, but I believe this year is a contract year for him. So bring in some competition nonetheless, but at least, like, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're in such a pass heavy league. You need to load up on corners, and it's not like I don't think the Panthers were in the same position as the Broncos, for example, in terms of their secondary depth. The Panthers did really need a defensive playmaker, and I really love that they just went for it. They didn't trade back, no funny business. Just get the best defensive back for your team, and go from there. So that was one that got me super fired up, and maybe it's because I just like Matt Rule and what he's doing there. But I think that this was a home run hit for them.
I like what Matt Rule's doing as well, and he's a good program builder, and I'm really hoping this long-term build comes to fruition because he's done it at every level, like we've discussed.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would like to throw in just as another one. I thought the fit for Jamin Davis to Washington was really good.
Mm,
Since they haven't really they've got the pass rush, and now they needed kind of to address like that second level, and to get a guy who was, again, he was a first round talent all the way across. Some argued top 1 or 2 uh, linebackers in the draft, and for them to get just add to that beast of a defense that is taking shape.
mm-hmm.
And we forget that they have the safety. I think it's Landon Collins.
Yeah.
So that secondary looks good. They've got now they got Jamin Davis to kind of be the captain in the middle of the field. I think that was a fantastic pick for this team, who's kind of uncertain at quarterback. I know they got Fitzpatrick, so maybe they're fine, but I think that this is going to be just one of those grimy teams that wins games 20-18 every week.
Yeah. One thing I would have liked Washington to do, and I'll segue this to like my other 2 favorite picks, is select a quarterback in the mid rounds that they could potentially groom. And I know Taylor Heineke could potentially be that guy, but I really like how the Texans went with Davis Mills and the Vikings took Kellen Mond. I know a lot of people are down on that Davis Mills pick for the Texans, but I mean, Deshaun Watson's not playing an NFL football game anytime soon. I'm not sure if anyone's aware, but I don't think it'd be a great look for the NFL or Commissioner Goodell to exactly sanction him and allow him to play on the football field with these floating allegations. And it's hard to sell the fan base on Tyrod Taylor. I mean, he's a great teammate, and I mean, he was there for Baker Mayfield. He was there for Justin Herbert. I'm hoping, he actually gets the chance to shine and start and be the guy there for the Texans for a while. But maybe it's just me, and that's like a weird thing of mine, but I love when teams take quarterbacks in these rounds and just kind of develop them and see what happens. You never know what could really come of it. And I can't think of many success stories off the top of my head. Yes, Russ was a 3rd round pick, but he won the job right away out of camp. It's not like he was exactly groomed for that position. But and then Kellen Mond, I mean, we've been harping on Kirk Cousins for years now, and I'm sure many Vikings fans have themselves. And now you have someone to kind of light a little fire behind him. And there's that story going around that Bo Levi Mitchell was going to sign there in the Minnesota Vikings, and it was in the meeting saying, "Hey, I'm going to gun for his job. I want Kirk's job." And like, no, we just want someone to hold the clipboard. And then that's why Bo didn't really sign there. I'm hoping this Kellen Mond pick allows them to actually take that seriously and put a little fire behind Kirk, because I think he needs it. And Kirk shows flashes of being great, but he also shows flashes of being quite disappointing and can't seem to maintain an elite level of play for a long period of time. But I love these picks of Davis Mills and Kellen Mond. We didn't know where they're going to go, and maybe even add Kyle Trask to that. I'm not sure how he compares and if that's a real succession plan for Brady. And it's something I touched on at the end of our mock draft episode, if they would take someone at 31, but even better value getting him in the later rounds. So really excited to see what these other 3 quarterbacks do, because I think they're going to have some time to hold the clipboard and get better mentally with the game.
Yeah, I really like what you said about Kellen Mond there. And challenging Kirk Cousins, because I think that Kirk has had it way too easy throughout his time in the league, and it's just been one of those things. He goes from Washington to Minnesota on a fully guaranteed contract, and it's like, this is the guy that's paving the way for guaranteed money for quarterbacks, really.
Mm-hmm.
After just collecting the bag with franchise tags, and props to him for doing that and for staying healthy throughout those years. But it's been one of those things where I haven't felt like he's deserved he's played up to that level of money that he's getting. And he's getting top 5 money at times throughout these contracts that he's signing. And he re-upped last offseason, I believe. And so it'd be nice to get some competition in there with a guy who is a dual threat quarterback and adds that other element that I think would really unlock that offense. If you get Dalvin Cook going and get Kellen Mond on some bootleg action or some RPOs, I think that would really open up the offense.
Yes, sir. That does it for my favorite picks. Do you have any last ones to end on?
I touched on it when we covered the Browns. Actually, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is my other one.
Nice. All right, I love it.
Honorable mention to Rashawn Slater to the Chargers. I thought they played that excellent, trading back, getting picks, and getting their guy. I thought that was just like,
that was awesome.
You couldn't have drawn it up better.
Yeah. And the Giants got screwed over. It looked like they wanted Devonta Smith, and the Eagles jumped the Cowboys and took their guy, and then they took Kadarius Toney. I gotta say that wrong. Tony. And kind of a bit of a reach in my opinion, but we'll see how that pans out. Last note on the NFL draft, Ozzy, which first round quarterback was placed in the best position to succeed and the worst in your opinion? I'll leave it to you because your team did draft Mac Jones. Do you think he's in a better position to succeed than, say, a Trey Lance in San Francisco?
I was going to actually contrast those guys, because I thought that whoever went to the 49ers was going to be in the best position. And I'm going to stand by that, even though I think that the fit with Mac Jones to the Patriots is too good to be true. I think Trey Lance in that 49ers offense is going to be such a treat to watch. His run ability is going to make teams crazy in game planning for it. Just because we've already seen the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan's game plans, he decimates defenses with the run game first, and that opens up the pass. Now you've got an accurate quarterback who can also run. So now when you open up the pass game with the run, now you've got that whole other element of the quarterback bootlegging out. And just imagine that. I think that it's going to be such a treat. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts week 1, but at the same time, Jimmy has been good enough in that offense that they're a Super Bowl team when he's healthy. So I don't think that there's any rush to get him out there. I'm thinking that we could see ourselves like a very similar career path as Pat Mahomes, where he redshirts the first year, and next year we see Trey Lance take over. It's going to be so freaking I know it's going to be dangerous, as I might say.
Trey Lance throwing for 55 touchdowns or running for 25. I think, like you look at Kyle Shanahan, what he did with RG3 and Johnny Manziel, more mobile quarterbacks that he's worked with. And I'm not sure, like, speed wise, where Trey Lance kind of lands between the two. I mean, RG3 had track star speed. So I don't think they'll be running him on like QB, hitting the perimeter, but you can run a lot of QB power with Lance, getting him up the middle, and he's able to truck some guys. He's well built. So obviously you don't want your quarterback taking unnecessary hits, but it unlocks a whole nother dimension to that offense, like you said, Ozzy, and one that they even had when Jimmy G, prior to his ACL tear. I mean, he was running lots, and I think on one of where he tore his ACL in Kansas City in 2018 was on like a QB bootleg. He had gained like 10 or 20 yards and then took that hit on the sideline that tore his ACL. So Shanahan likes his quarterbacks to be able to run around a little bit. And unfortunately, Jimmy G hasn't been able to because of his injuries, but now with Trey Lance, I'm in agreement, by the way. I think he's in the best position to succeed. I think the one that's probably set up for the worst kind of position is probably going to be Zach Wilson in New York. I just think there's the least amount of talent there and the most work to do. And I'm not hating on him. I think I'm rooting for him. I hope he pans out and everything, but I mean, it's hard to kind of look around and see. I love the Elijah Moore. They got Denzel Mims. So like there's pieces there. It's not a total wasteland, but there's probably the most holes to fill in that roster still, and it's probably a longer term project than even the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. I love Daryl Bevel and Brian Schottenheimer and Urban Meyer. They kind of got like the three minds they're working, and Bevel worked with Russell Wilson as a rookie, so he knows how to kind of cater an offense to an experienced quarterback. I'm really excited for him. But yeah, Trey Lance, most likely or best position to succeed, and Zach Wilson, the worst position to kind of succeed right away anyways. Do you see worst as the same, or who do you have for that one?
No, I would agree with you. I think that's a fair estimate with the first year head coach, first first year offense, or no, Mike LaFleur was no, just the first year head coach, and with the team rebuilding where they're at, I don't think that they're in any way, shape, or form ready to compete. It's way too early, and they had a really good draft, but you're going to see a lot of growing pains with the Jets still, I think.
You bet. Let's talk about some Canadians in the NFL draft. We had Javon Holland going the second round, defensive back to the Miami Dolphins. We had, like we already mentioned, Benjamin St. Just, or sorry, not like we already mentioned. I'm thinking of someone else. Pierre Olivier Lestage going to the Seattle as an undrafted free agent. We had Benjamin St. Just going to the Washington football team. Josh Palmer, receiver, going to the LA Chargers. Chuba Hubbard going to the Carolina Panthers, running back from the St. Albert or Edmonton area. So that was good for him. And I mean, I think he's going to get snaps with McCaffrey. They have such a high usage rate for him that if he goes down again, that's going to be Hubbard's job to take. We have Amen Ogbonmega, linebacker to the LA Chargers from the Calgary area here. And then we have Alaric Jackson, offensive lineman to the Rams, and Bruno Labelle, tight end to the Cardinals. So really cool to see a lot of Canadian talent getting their opportunity in the NFL. I'm especially excited for Hubbard. And I think Palmer is going to be great too with the LA Chargers, gets a chance to go play with Justin Herbert there. So any names that you're excited for, or do you think can have a chance to shine right away?
I've heard really good things about Javon Holland going to Miami as a safety. I think he was a top 3 safety in this class. So I think that he'll be able to make an impact. Again, I heard good things about Benjamin St. Just actually as well. And the fit with Josh Palmer in LA, I think, is a really, really good one. He gets to sit behind Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and he might be a beneficiary of those guys opening up some lanes for him. So you had mentioned my favorite of the bunch, Chuba Hubbard. I thought that I think he was actually the leader in rush yards last year in college, all of college football or something like that. I think he was maybe a Heisman potential candidate, if I'm remembering correctly,
yeah.
or at least to start the year or like middle of the year, he was a Heisman candidate. So that was really impressive. So I really do love that they're doubling down at the running back position with a solid 3rd round pick, I believe he was, to sit behind Christian McCaffrey. You've obviously got your guy in McCaffrey, but to have that depth there, we saw how beneficial it is. If a guy like him goes down, you need a guy like Mike Davis to go in who can do it all. And I think Chuba Hubbard is, again, another one of those guys. I wanted to mention, give a shout out to some of these guys who also are getting drafted in the CFL draft as it's going down.
Yes, sir.
Amen Ogbonmega got drafted by the Stampeders. My guy Pierre Olivier Lestage is also is going to the Alouettes if things don't pan out with the Seahawks. And Alaric Jackson, I saw, got drafted by the BC Lions. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to see.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, if they don't pan out, then at least the CFL teams have their rights, and then you have a pipeline of talent. I remember, I think it was it last year or the year before, they Rough Riders drafted Neville Gallimore, who was a 3rd round pick for the Cowboys. But you never know, right? Some of these guys could make their way up north. And speaking of the CFL draft, as it goes on, we mentioned Jake Burt going 1st overall to the Ticats. We had Nelson Lacombo out of Saskatchewan go to Saskatchewan, 2nd overall. Liam Dobson go to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And for those that tune into our Jabari Arthur interview, Peter Nicastro went to the Toronto Argonauts, offensive lineman. So potentially play alongside Shane Richards, who we also had on here from the Calgary area. And I'm trying to think anyone else here. Oh yeah, your Alouettes, as you mentioned, they're Aussie. took Pierre-Olivier Lestage, and Grant McDonald went to the Edmonton football team. Almost said it, didn't say it. Edmonton football team. So another Calgary Dino off the board. So really looking good here. And then Terrell Jana, a highly touted receiver, has been drafted by Saskatchewan for the 17th pick in the second round. So that is where we stand as of this recording. We'll have more of a draft recap next week. Because as it's happening right now, it's a little tough. But really excited for these Canadian players, man. It goes to show with the Canadian talent that we have getting shots in the NFL, and these guys that are coming from the prairie regions here in Western Canada getting drafted in the first round. I mean, I think it really speaks to the developmental programs we have here, and it's important we keep giving them our time, attention, and if possible, money, because it's producing really high quality talent. So congrats to all the draftees, and if anyone that doesn't get drafted, man, hope to still see you on the football field and contributing to the game.
Heck yeah. And whether you're drafted or not, hopefully you're listening to this, and send us a DM and come on the pod.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll chat some ball.
Get you some name brand action.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's about it, guys. It's again Zach's birthday. Wish him a happy birthday once you're listening to this, even if it's belated. And we'll have some CFL draft recap for you next week. You can find me on Twitter at SteveBolin22. You can find me on Instagram at SteveBolin_. Be sure to follow all the amateur agency accounts at the Amateur Agency. Ozzy, where can the fine folks find you?
Fine folks, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at AustinPaul_. That's Austin with a Y, not an I.
And
you cowards.
You cowards. And you can find Zach on Instagram at ZachFoth_ and just at ZachFoth on Twitter. I'll never get over the fact that he's able to just have his name on Twitter. I'll bring it up a million times if I have to on this podcast, but another discussion for another day. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Until next week, Godspeed.